Hello and welcome back. Hello and welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Today we are going to be jumping into Shinto and the Shogunate for the upcoming game with the codename Project Caesar. This is going to be a little bit of an an overview. We took a look at some of these mechanics. We've also played a little bit of the game, so we'll talk a little bit about balance and these types of things as we go through this. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another issue of Happy Wednesday, the Happy Wednesday where we forget to capitalize happy even though it's a holiday, Tinto Talks. Today we will be taking a look at the mechanics for Shinto and the Shogunate. Let's start with religion. In EU5, and this is a little bit of a curious kind of adjustment from Roger here. Roger hasn't been saying the title of the game with the codename Project Caesar, because it's also with the codename Europa Universalis 5. You see, this isn't the real name for the game, and you can wishlist this game right now on Steam, and it's listed under Europa Universalis 5, but everyone knows that this is in fact an anagram, and some people, well, I guess not everyone, but the people who don't need to wake up, because it's clearly, this is not a reasonable name for a sequel to the game Europa Universalis 4. It's just outrageous. It's outlandish. And in fact, we know what the actual title of the game will be. It's an anagram. It's Superior Vain Values, because we're better than you, and we know it. Continuing on, let's start with the religion. In EU5, Superior Vain Values is part of the, Shinto is part of the Buddhist religious group. We have here max literacy plus 10%. And in general, the Eastern religions have a lot of access to plus percentage literacy. So if they can ever get a flat literacy, a flat research speed amount that is particularly substantive, they'll actually out-tech the West, I think, in general. We haven't seen like all the modifiers, but a lot of the Eastern kind of places we've seen have a lot of literacy modifiers which help with research, or research modifiers just exactly. This is something that's interesting to note. We also see tolerance of heretical beliefs and heathen beliefs +1. Tolerance is pretty nice, and if you're doing any conquering as Japan, they're going to be heretical or heathen, so this is going to be a nice little one for you. Monasteries allowed. Not sure, the monastery building is like slightly below standard, but it's not actively bad, so I don't really know if allowing it to be built effectively gives something to your estates to be built, and I don't really know if it's good or bad. This is kind of one I've been considering for a while here. But continuing on, we will have several actions that we can take here as Shinto. We can do a cleansing ritual, we can do a pilgrimage, we can do religious offering, or we can commit a Subaru. The classic off-road, journey, or ending of the journey. We are going off the path of life, classic off-roading with Subarus. As you can see here, a Shinto has two currencies, honor and purity. Besides, we can see here, honor and purity. Besides it being modified through events and actions we'll talk about in a little bit, one thing to note is that fighting in battles will decrease your purity due to the fact that blood is considered impure. It is a little bit gross. And having high purity will allow the accumulation of honor, which will be then used for actions, while having low purity will make other perceive you as an Oni on Earth, which may have its own benefits. And generally speaking, with social values, you want to have them at like either plus minus 100, or decentralization has benefits, centralization has benefits, and being close to the middle, this is actually where it's bad. And I think that this is probably going to be the same case in purity. If we have negative purity, if we have it particularly low, we will get these effects. Noble estate, clergy estate, burgher estate, all minus 5% satisfaction. But peasant plus 20%. And because peasants are disproportionately a high percentage of your pops, and because location satisfaction is an average of all satisfaction, your locations will actually have tremendously high satisfaction with this active, because plus 20%, it'll basically be plus 20%. If 90% of your pops are peasants, and the peasant's estate includes both peasants and laborers, then it's going to be the case that you get a lot of location satisfaction when you get plus 20% estate satisfaction. Also, the two kind of groups you really want to tax a lot are the burghers and the peasants, in my opinion, or this is where you get a lot of the money from. And the burghers, generally, you can get a lot of high satisfaction because most of the privileges you hand out to the burghers tend to be really good, and you tend to hand out a lot of them. a little bit less so for the peasants. And so you're going to have high satisfaction on your burghers anyways, and extra satisfaction effectively lets you tax more, as you are trying to keep above an equilibrium of 50 in general. I think is kind of an okay heuristic, and if especially because the automatic slider moves it to 50, and if you're doing this, getting plus 20 satisfaction in some instances will effectively allow you to tax more. And then the other thing we get if we get purity is we get honor, but honor has some good trade-offs. So the different actions in the panel are a way of regaining purity, from the most simple ones of spending prestige or money for a cleansing ritual, or the pilgrimages respectively, to more expensive ones like offering a work of art or even your body, as per the Subaru. Besides Outback off-road vehicle. Besides these actions, this religion also features an international organization where countries can interact with the different factions present here. At start, there are 3 factions present: the Imperial Court, the Shogunate Court, and the religious sects, although more factions can appear in the future related to some other religious followers. A shout out to Catholicism. Each faction has some actions available at the cost of some honor, although not all factions will be available to all countries. For example, if you're at war with the Shogun, you will not be able to access the Shogunate Court for obvious reasons. Yeah, except to surrender. Catch these hands, you know what I mean? Catch my drift, catch these hands. Imperial Court, we could get authorization for expansion, an interesting one. Get marriage, become Shogun. We also have the Shogunate Court, appease elites, increase levies, and increase tax income. I think that this is probably going to be one of the premier type of ones, depending on exactly how this applies. However, for people who are grabbing this, this is going to be either the Emperor or the Daimyos. For Daimyos, I don't know how good increased tax income is. But for the Emperor, or generally speaking, increasing tax income is more valuable than it looks. Because if you are running, let's say you're taxing like 30% out of your estates, and then your expenses are actually like 25%, because your expenses scale with your tax base. So what happens is if you increase that, right now your margin is like 5% of your tax base in value, and that's how much is going to the treasury. If you increase taxes by, let's say, 20%, just the nominal income, I don't know if this gives tax efficiency or extra max tax possibility, but let's say it's tax efficiency, and your tax efficiency increases by something like 20. So you go up from 30% effective to 36% effective. Well, that sounds like it's just a 20% increase, but in terms of nominal gold that you're receiving, you've brought your margin from 30 minus 25 equals 5 to 36 minus 25 equals 11. Of course, you should never do math when recording a video, but the idea is you care about the margin, and any sort of gain on the happy side of the margin for you is going to give a way bigger effect than it looks like just looking at the percentage. It's not that you just get 20% more what you think of as your income, which is really your margin. But here we have religious sects, increased literacy, which of course is going to be yet another example of us being able to push literacy really high, which helps push research. Appease temples, favor Buddhist schools, favor Kami worship, keep Kami and Buddha balanced. Okay. I went to a hot dog stand the other day, and actually I did go to a hot dog stand, and I told the guy I was Buddhist, and then he asked me how I wanted my hot dog, and I said, make me one with everything. And he didn't get the joke, and the guy I was with didn't get the joke, because we were at a car show, we were like checking out stuff, and I felt horribly embarrassed. And by horribly embarrassed, I mean I amused myself, and I actually thought I was really funny and clever. But anyways, continuing on, we can pursue the Imperial Court to give us justification to declare war on the neighbors, to expand our influence. Expand clan authority. Interesting, on one of our neighbors' provinces. I wonder if this is letting the daimyo seize locations, or what exactly. I'm not sure exactly how this applies and how you get locations out from under the Emperor / Shogun in terms of the mechanics. Here we see demand extra payment, which is going to give us 41 and extra manpower. The Shogunate loses opinion of the Hosokawa clan, so we are going to demand stuff as the Emperor. and then we can negotiate with different religious sects, appease the temples, notably from the estate satisfaction of the clergy, that's what the Soryo is the flavored clergy for Japan. From going from 50 to 100 nets you plus 25% research speed. So what 10% estate satisfaction effectively is 5% research speed, which is quite a lot, and this only takes 10 investment. And this is kind of what we're talking about. You could actually, like, in the hands of a player who is trying to min-max research speed, Japan's actually going to be really fast. On top of, Japan is probably going to do relatively well in the liturgical language front, because Japanese, your language power is informed by your market language, your market languages, court languages, liturgical language, market language power, and then language power in turn informs your research speed. Japan uses the same thing for all of them. So you're getting points from having it as your court language, you're getting points from it as your market language, you're getting points from it as your liturgical language. At least I think they use Japanese as their liturgical language. I don't think they use Chinese. And so with this in place, you're competing with Europeans who only use like Latin as their liturgical language rather than using it for all the other things. And so you do have some sort of advantage. It just depends on how they want to balance the game in regards to what contributes to language power, if it's going to be really heavily weighted towards liturgical or not. But Japan has like this unified, everything's the same type of thing, which has other benefits as well. But continuing on, some of the actions of the religious sects will allow you to countries to interact with the mechanics of other Buddhist religions, but you will have to wait for future Tinto talks for an explanation on those. Womp womp. Shinto also gives you access to some other unique advances. I actually can't remember the Buddhist religion stuff too well. We did play as Korea, and we did kind of see a little bit of it. Shinto also gives you access to some unique advances, like, for example, Age of Traditions, Peasant Estate Satisfaction equal to 5%. We stand those. We like those. Peasant estate satisfaction, as we explained earlier, really informs all location satisfaction, especially in the early game where it's just like 95+% peasants. We see Age of Renaissance, max literacy for clergy, plus 10%. This is going to be relatively good. It's going to be relatively solid. In terms of literacy on pops, I think clergy are actually one of the weaker ones, but it is going to give you assimilation percentage speed, which is modifying relatively low flat value, but I think that the modifier affects the cabinet action. It's generally assimilation's generally a little bit better with the cabinet action, but it's also going to give conversion speed. So I guess if you're trying to get everyone over to Shinto, it does help out a bit. And maybe we just haven't tried to super convert people, and so we're underappreciating the value of the literacy on the clergy. But it gives you assimilation and conversion speed. Tolerance of heretical beliefs. Essentially, this is one of the Buddhist, or is in the Buddhist category. This is going to be, if you expand into Korea, this is going to be tolerance for those pops. I think that's your kind of a natural expand type of place. And I don't know about Southeast Asia if they're Buddhist religion, but if they are, that's going to help out quite a bit. And we already saw another source of this, and it's available in Age of Renaissance, so relatively early. And so that's going to be good for us. Cultural tradition. It's going to be, I think cultural tradition's generally a weak modifier. This is the defense. I think in general you're not playing defense with your culture too much as you're looking for cultural influence. But I could just be misunderstanding it. Age of Reformation is starting to get in the middle game. Age of Discovery, Army Tradition for battles plus 50%. That's kind of a lot. I don't know how good that is, because I didn't pay super close attention to Army Tradition in general, so difficult to evaluate for me. Now let's move on to the Shogunate, Duelets, which is present in the game as an international organization. We have appointed posts, we have opened the country, we have great power score for the leader, and then members cannot become empires or kingdoms. This makes sense. Gives food access, can invite new members, okay. And we have the Shogunate that is leading the rest of the empire. So this is the playable, like if you click on Japan to play it, and you don't specifically select one of these daimyos, you will be the shogun, the Ashikaga Shogunate. There are two types of special statuses in the Shogunate International Organization, the Sugo and the Emperor, or Emperors in this case, more on that Friday. The Emperor is the one that is technically the ruler of Japan, although, theory is practice in theory, but not in practice. The emperor is the de jure, but not the de facto ruler. Although one actually in charge is the shogun. Yeah, shout out. While the shugo are provincial governors, giving them some nice bonuses. We see Shugo Daimyo getting some nice bonuses. Tax efficiency plus 10%. Strong modifier. Efficiency of cabinet, legitimacy also very nice. There's an action for the shogunate to either grant or revoke governorship of a province, while individual clans also have the opportunity of basically becoming de facto shugo if they manage to establish enough presence or in a particular province. Okay, interesting. We can't really tell just by looking at it how these mechanics work. There's like kind of a lot of question marks in regards to playing a landless daimyo, but I think that in our Korea game we observed at some point Japan, like some sort of weird influence war broke down, and various daimyos started to own locations rather than the Ashikaga shogunate, but not like the entirety of Japan was lost to these. The majority was still in the Ashikaga shogunate's hands. However, these actions, maybe it's once you acquire a certain amount of influence over a province or something like this. However, these actions will only be available as long as the shogunate itself has the appropriate law and will be disbanded once it centralizes control. So maybe as a player, you just never get to the point where you're losing stuff to the daimyos. We get clan residents, need to have appointed posts, and enables the grant Shugo office, and maybe this is what this is referring to. The leader gets change policy costs minus 5%, monthly legitimacy 0.05. Doesn't really seem like that tremendous modifier. We see prestige in the other stuff, and we see that we can do established domains as well. Becoming leader of the shogunate is something that is not granted. Instead, is earned. The first step is to obtain backing of the imperial court with the become shogun of the imperial court faction in the Shinto IO. And here we see become shogunate will require 100 honor. So you might have to commit. You might have to commit to a few Subarus in order to, be able to get here. Actually, just two. But you will grant a modifier directly to the ruler, not the country, and a casus belli to declare on the current leader of the shogunate. If the war is declared and won while still having the same ruler, so no Subaru for you, a special treaty can be enacted forcing the change of leadership. And that's all for today. That's interesting. I was expecting this to be a little bit longer. Tomorrow we will have behind the music of Europa Universalis 5. We, of course, in the background here have the soundtrack to EU4 playing. And this, of course, is behind the music of Europa Universalis 5. The supposed title of Superior Vain Values, composing the grandest score video, and on Friday we will be back with a further look at the content flavor for Japan and Japanese clans, as well as the situation, of the Bukocho and Sengoku Jedi. See you there. And remember, you can wishlist a Europa Universalis 5. You can wishlist the supposedly titled Europa Universalis 5. It is available on Steam. And incidentally, I'm pretty sure, so the devs push, as you can, if you're following these Tinto talks, right, you'll see that at the bottom of every single one of them, they are doing this. And this actively helps them from their perspective, both in terms of like marketing and like internally. It is something that the Tinto team can show off to the CEO and this type of stuff, and that they can show off to shareholders. So like this is an important and valuable metric, even if like you're just going to buy the game and you're going to buy the game, and wishlisting it doesn't do anything for you. It is helpful to the team, so you should still consider doing it as a means of if you want EU5 to be successful, for example. If there are way more wish lists, this implies to them that the interest is bigger. They like might be able to dedicate more resources to the development and this type of stuff, so maybe more QA guys as it comes out. Maybe the game even comes out faster. It's probably a little troll to suggest that, but just saying that like this is something that they track and they care about, and there's a reason why they're putting it at the bottom of like this every time. I haven't spoken to any devs or anyone on the team about this. This is like my own inference, but like this makes like sense to me. That is reason why they're pushing this. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You know, do the YouTube algorithm thing. And other than that, have a happy Wednesday.